Okay, so this video is going to be about Pope Leo the 14th apologizing for the Vatican's role in slavery. Also, I will be reading an article on pbs.org going further into the papacy's apology for slavery. I'm not gonna read the whole article. I'm just gonna read parts of it. Links will be in the description box. Also, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Pope Nicholas V. For those of you that don't normally watch my videos, if you have watched the playlist called So-Called Christians but Workers of Satan, if you watch that playlist, then you're gonna know a little bit about Pope Nicholas V. And I discussed 2 papal bulls that were written, and if it wasn't for those papal bulls, there wouldn't have been a transatlantic slave trade. But I'm not going to go over those papal bulls in this video, but I'm going to put the link to that video, which I do a deep dive about the papacy and their role in the transatlantic slave trade. Also, actually, starting with Portugal and Spain, but like I explain more of that in that video. And so before you had a transatlantic slave trade, you had a Spanish Inquisition, and then the Portuguese started their slave trade in I would say mid to late 1400s. I talk about that in Hidden Ones, which I probably will go ahead and find that video for you guys, where I'm showing the maps and I'm showing where the Africans went to. But yeah, I think I'll put that link to that video also, which is from Hidden Ones, in the description box where I explain it further. But I just want to focus this video specifically on the apology and talking about what my stance on reparations is. Okay, so I'm going to start out by saying fair use, fair use. This is for educational purposes. Here we are, pbs.org. And this looks like their news section here. And the title says Pope Leo XIV makes historic apology for Vatican's role in legitimizing slavery. And it wasn't just a small role, it was a huge role that they played in this. And this picture here is of Pope Leo the 14th. It looks like he's signing something in a book. All right. So let's read. Pope Leo XIV made a historic apology on Monday for the Holy See's role in legitimizing slavery and for having failed to condemn it for centuries. You know, I did a video talking about how the UN talked about the transatlantic slave trade. I forget the title, but I'll put that video in the description box for you to watch that video. Calling the Vatican's record a wound in Christian memory. So if it wasn't for these popes of the past, one being Pope Nicholas V, all right, signing these papal bulls, which are edicts that popes sign, right? Basically giving permission to these kings and queens, people in leadership roles, a green light to go and snatch people up, take their land, take whatever they have, snatch them up as slaves, and subdue them into slavery. Those specifically who they deemed as non-Christians. All right. Past popes have apologized for Christians' involvement in who? Past popes have apologized for Christians' involvement in the transatlantic. You mean Christians were involved in the transatlantic slave? Yes. If you don't know that, now you know it. Involvement in the so it wasn't just the Arabs, it was the Christians too. Involvement in the transatlantic slave trade. But no pope had ever publicly acknowledged, much less apologized for, the role that past popes played in giving European sovereigns, like I said, kings and queens, monarchs, explicit authority to subjugate and enslave what they deem as infidels, meaning that people that didn't practice their Christianity. See, this is why I personally separate myself from the term Christianity. I call myself a follower of the way, the truth, and the life. I'm a believer and I'm a follower of the Mashiach. That's what I call myself. I no longer call myself Christian. All right? Because I'm finding out that means totally something different. But this is not get like me, but this is what I've come to believe. And I say I follow Jesus. That's it. History's first U.S. born pope, whose family history includes both enslaved people and slave owners, delivered the apology in the first encyclical Magnificent Humanity. I'm gonna just say that. I believe that's Italian, but I'm just say delivered the apology in the first Magnificent Humanity, which was released Monday. Like I said, an apology is good, is a start, right? Recognizing the wrong, apologizing for it. It's always good to apologize. The sweeping manifesto is about safeguarding humanity in the era of increasing reliance on artificial intelligence. Leo raised the slave trade in relation to what he called the new forms of slavery and colonization or colonialism, slavery and colonialism, that the digital revolution is fueling. Is colonization still going on? Yes, it's still going on. Black American Catholics, activists, and scholars have long called for the Holy See. See, that I didn't know. I'm not Catholic, but apparently there are blacks who are Catholics. Activists and scholars have long called for the Holy See to atone for its role in colonial era trade and human beings beyond generic apologies. Apology, that's why I said apology is good, but apology is just a start. We have to go past now, I have heard leaders in the past apologize for their role, which is great, but that's all I've heard was apology. All right. To atone for its role in the colonial era trade in human beings beyond generic apologies for the involvement of for the involvement of individual Christians. Here we go again. That word Christians. It is impossible not to feel deep sorrow when contemplating the immense suffering and humiliation endured by so many, in stark contrast to their immeasurable dignity as persons loved by infinitely. Okay. Dignity as persons infinitely loved by the Lord. Leo wrote, "For this, in the name of the church, I sincerely ask for pardon." All right, so just take a minute right now to look at the screen. This is a picture of Pope Nicholas V. It says 1445 Papal Bulls. This is what he looks like. Okay, at the bottom of this portrait, all right, links will be in the description so you can look at it for yourself, all right? It says, "Portrait of Pope Nicholas V, CA is approximately or around 1612. So this painting was done around 1612. Let's go to the bottom of this picture and read a little bit about it. Various Catholic popes, including Pope Nicholas V, issued for pseudo-governmental edicts known as papal bulls, which laid the foundation for the transatlantic slave trade and colonization, and forever changed the world. So like I said again, if it wasn't for these papal bulls by the papacy, then it wouldn't have been a transatlantic slave trade. All right. Not even what they were doing in the mid, or maybe a little bit early to mid to late 1400s. All right. And like I said, I have a video in the description box. And so that video goes more into the papal bulls. And I will mark to learn more about the papal bulls. Click on this video so you know for sure. All right. Okay, so before I end the video, I'm going to talk a little bit about reparations and what my stance on reparations is. That being said, does the papacy owe the descendants of the transatlantic slavery reparations? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because like I said, if it wasn't for them papal bulls, it wouldn't have been a transatlantic slave trade. All right. So I do believe that the papacy owes us reparations. Now, do I believe that they're going to give us reparations? Absolutely not. That's why I said there's a lot of apologizing going on, but it just manages to stop right there, right? We acknowledge the atrocities that happened, and we acknowledge that there was slavery, and we apologize for it. But it seems to just stop right there. You know, people talk up, these politicians, they've talked about it. They've done studies on reparations and should we give reparations, blah, 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 da, da, da. And it just never seems, nobody seems to cut a check. So, but me personally, like I said, I do believe that we're owed reparations, you know, the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. But I do not believe that we will receive reparations. I'm sorry. I just don't believe it. Me personally, I put my faith and trust in the Most High, and I look to the Most High to provide me, and He's been providing for me all this time. So I look to the Most High. I don't look to man to give me anything. I look to the Most High. He supplies my needs. Nor do I put my faith and trust in any politician. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever type of politician. I don't look for these politicians to save me or to give me anything, because the Most High's been taking care of me all this time. And I will continue to put my faith and trust in the Most High Yah, because He's been supplying all my needs. Now, yes, there's a day coming for justice. There is a day coming. And I look to the Most High, and I look for His promises, because He's promised His people so many things. And I look to the promises. All right, so I may be doing a part 2 to this. There's some things that I want to go back over in that article that I read from pbs.org. I really want to bring it out, and I want to make some things plain, and bring in some evidence of some things. So I know you hear me in my car. I had to do some editing. I had to add to the video, but stay tuned. Like I said, I may be doing a part 2. I don't know when I'm going to do it. If you're listening to this and you don't know Yahusha as your Savior, click the link in the description box. I tell you how to get saved. Have a good day.